just go right to go to the next slide. So what's up here will be shown on that screen so everyone will be able to see it. So yeah, it's going to be easy. So just come back before 11, yeah?
Yeah, near glass. The mangrove hiding contact. So we're just talking about the I mean, I don't know, like, I just think that someone with a translation.
1 2 1 2.
Can you sort that out? Well, I got thought it was all English. Yeah, exactly. What's her native son? No, Malagasy. Yeah, fine. But I mean, it could be French. I don't know. But that's not native. Yes, sir.
No, where can I
Try the Australian pavilion or try the SDG business pavilion.
the business?
He's nice. Yeah.
But I don't want to show my face.
Yeah, no, you gotta
share them out.
I don't sound very Australian.
Trust me, I'm
I could tell what's referred.
Commonwealth. Yeah, my commissioner said to.
Fine.
So I don't know.
That's fine. No, if she's sorting it out.
She's sorting it out.
But it's, everyone else is off at the minute.
No, I said no too. I said no. We do need to get a sense of
So I don't. Listen to it. It's just like we can find solutions. Like, yeah.
So is it someone who's going to be speaking to the president? Yeah.
To hear it. So whoever needs to hear it in French and just hear the microphone going from the translator. See what I mean? So it'll be like, if you don't understand English and you need to hear French, then the microphone that the translator's using will go to that channel that they can switch to listen in French to the interpretation.
I'm just going to message. I'm going to message.
Live streaming. Well, don't actually, because if Dennis and Ross are not ready to have that conversation, they need to do their own work behind the scenes. Let's just wait until they ask questions. No, don't worry. I'm just for my own like event management experience, because I was like, how's that gonna work? But it's fine. That was how that. Yeah. And the mangroves. Agree.
You would say the sky is blue and I'm doing the little flower.
Yeah. But then, like, what's it called? I think maybe she wants like proper live interpretation. Proper. Like you can't make the minister one sentence stop wait, one sentence stop wait. Like the full on so you're speaking like live like that. Which is different. Because that's real interpretation. Yeah. But that's why we have to be really fast in things like working languages from English. Because it's not just translation, it's like interpretation, which is a UN service, but we're not a UN thing. Do you know what I mean? So it's like any more? Yeah.
So, hi everyone, thank you for coming. What we're going to do is, Aurelia is going to introduce each one of you. You'll come up to the podium. You stand, take your headsets off to speak, otherwise you'll hear yourself. That's really, really bad. Well, I think it is. Give you your 5 minutes. Take your time. When the time has leaves, come back and sit down. And then once we're done, Judith from Rotary will come up and start doing some presentation and posters and things. And you can take a seat in the row or you can sit here. Thank you very much.
Sí, no, ya es como la patada de ahora.
Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me? Excellent. You haven't got your headset on. Welcome to the Commonwealth Secretariat Youth event to start off Youth Day and Community Day. We welcome you all here today who are here in person and also on our live link. With 60% of the Commonwealth population being under the age of 30, we think this is a really important event. We're giving a voice to not only our youth who are on the ground, but the work and the gravitas of what we do here in the Commonwealth Secretariat. We've got a number of speakers here today from across the Commonwealth who will introduce you shortly. We're also doing a launch of a children's book, which will come later, so stick around for that. And we're also introducing a wonderful initiative from Rotary International, where they've done a poster competition, which will be introduced by Judith Dement very shortly. But to start off, we are going to start with a video of the Commonwealth Blue Charter, and I'd like to introduce you to our new Commonwealth Oceans advisor or assistant, who's based in Jamaica. Thank you. Can we play the video? With that, we're just having some technical issues with.
The ocean is a place of wonder, teeming with life and rich in natural diversity. As a habitat, a playground, a source of food, and a place of work and ceremony, its delicate ecosystems are an essential asset for our planet. But today, the challenge we face is a daunting one. As the ocean warms, pollution and acidity levels rise, and habitats are destroyed, resolving these issues is beyond the resources of any single country. And because 1/3 of the world's coastal oceans are in the Commonwealth, we have a unique role to play. It is now time for us to take urgent, cooperative and coordinated action. The Commonwealth Blue Charter aims to tackle the crisis in the ocean head-on. Agreed by world leaders in 2018, it is a commitment by all 54 Commonwealth countries to work together to sustainably manage, protect and preserve the ocean we all rely on, for a healthy planet and for countless lives and livelihoods. Our 10 Blue Charter action groups are leading the way, spearheaded by 16 champion countries, with ambitious initiatives designed to share, collaborate and inspire. It's a powerful, sustainable platform for ocean action. The Commonwealth Clean Ocean Alliance brings member states together to tackle the problem of marine plastic pollution. With 45% of all the planet's reefs in Commonwealth waters, our Coral Reef Protection and Restoration Action Group aims to care for these vital marine ecosystems. Our Mangrove Ecosystems and Livelihoods Action Group shares best practices and expands cooperation in the sustainable use and restoration of mangroves. The Marine Protected Areas Action Group is dedicated to creating, expanding and managing these essential ocean refuges across the Commonwealth. Another action group is addressing the impact of ocean acidification, which threatens our coastal communities. Our Ocean and Climate Change Action Group aims to reduce human-induced stress on the ocean and restore natural marine ecosystems. In the field of ocean observation, our action group is helping boost the environmental intelligence feeding into sustainable ocean management. The Sustainable Aquaculture Group promotes environmentally responsible, financially viable, and socially ethical ocean farming. Our group, championing the sustainable blue economy, encourages better stewardship and long-term investment into the blue resources of our ocean. Finally, the Sustainable Coastal Fisheries Action Group is taking measures to ensure that this vital source of food and livelihoods can evolve while protecting fish stocks for the future. Our combined efforts are already having tangible results, from protecting ever more of our ocean waters and banning single-use plastics, to restoring our coral reefs and mangrove forests. And as the private sector and non-governmental organizations get on board, we are turning the tide on ocean action together. So much has been achieved already, and there's still a lot more to do. To find out more about how we're taking a principled approach to using and protecting our ocean sustainably now and for generations to come, visit bluecharter.thecommonwealth.org.
Hi, I'm Dana Lynn, and in Jamaica, where I'm from, we're surrounded
And can we
by
play the second part of that video, please?
Caribbean Sea.
For us, it holds great cultural and economic value. Our coastlines are more than basking in the sun and squeezing sand through our toes. In our coastal communities, many people make a living by the sea. Our fisheries sector is an important source of food and employment. Our beaches attract local and international visitors who also contribute to the local economy. Sadly, climate change threatens our cultural product and livelihood activities that so many communities depend on. Therefore, we must do more to protect our ocean and beaches.
How are you and your community connected to the ocean? The Commonwealth invites you to share images of your work and ongoing projects with us. Upload your videos on our Sea of Voices platform.
Wonderful. So Danielyn's been working with us for just over 3 or 4 months now, and she's reaching out to all the youth communities across the Commonwealth where we'd like to learn more about the research and the initiatives and the wonderful action that you're taking in each of your countries. So if you're live streaming or if you're here and you'd like to know more about the work that Danielyn's doing and the Blue Charter's doing, please do reach out to us. But in the meantime, I'd like to introduce you to Aurelia Bruce. She is with the Commonwealth Youth program, and she'll be introducing our lovely speakers here on stage to give you an indication of the work that they're doing across the Commonwealth and how they can get involved in the work that you're doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Heidi. As Heidi mentioned, I am Aurelia Bruce. I work at the Commonwealth Secretariat in our Social Policy Division. Now, apart from the exciting work that we do in terms of policy, youth entrepreneurship and employment and the like, I do get the opportunity to engage with young people across the Commonwealth in a number of thematic areas that affect young people, their lives and their livelihoods. One of those areas is climate change, and within it, a number of young people are looking at this question of oceans sustainability and how we secure and protect our oceans for future generations. I mean, we had the wonderful video presentation just now in terms of the impact and the importance of oceans to us in the Commonwealth and indeed around the globe. And I want to quote Nadia Batson, a soca artist, from one island to another island. We just had Dana Lynn giving us a report, a wrap-up out of Jamaica. I want to turn to one of our youth action takers. I like to stress on the word action. It's not just about talk. And she is Ashley Lashley. She is a 22-year-old Barbadian UNICEF youth advocate who has a wide focus on social development issues, particularly as it relates to health, the environment, children and women's rights. She is the founder of the Ashley Lashley Foundation, whose primary focus is to bring about a greater sense of awareness of some of the world's major social, environment and health issues, particularly in small island developing states. Ashley also founded the Healthy and Environmentally Friendly Youth campaign, which is a Caribbean-initiated campaign on climate change and health with global outreach, seeking to build bridges between youth in the Caribbean and around the world. Ashley?
Hi, everyone. I just want to say thank you for extending an invitation for me being here today. And today's my presentation is going to share my experience as a Caribbean youth, predominantly from Barbados. So developed countries continue to intrude, rape, and exploit the wealth that lies within the Blue Caribbean Sea. They have continued to fish illegally because they believe that might is right, and they take advantage of small island developing states in the Caribbean since we do not have the capacity to challenge them. They continue to violate the international law of the Sea Convention as inscribed by the United Nations. They continue to violate all of the practices and principles of combating climate change through their massive offshore drilling, exploration, and exportation. Sad to say, some governments in our very own region are also culpable and complicit in this massive environmental problem, which have resulted in massive fish kills and the destruction of our coral reefs and created tremendous havoc to our pristine beaches in our small island developing states. This assault on our environmental blue spaces must stop, and it must stop today. This situation is further compounded and aggravated by the illegal dumping of plastics and other nuisance substances in our clean and clear waters. The term must now be changed from small island developing states to us being referred to as large ocean states. The word small is an insult to us as citizens of developing states. We are powered with enormous potential and resources that certainly, once managed effectively and efficiently, can lead to us reaping huge rewards. Our youth, however, are now challenged to reverse these environmental injustices that have been created by some developed nations as it relates to the blue economy and our marine spaces. So the question is, what can we as youth do to harness the power of addressing ocean issues? And this, for me, can be done through the use of education, capacity building, institutional strengthening, collaborations, and creating our own non-governmental organizations. But most importantly, as young people, We have to stand for something and be unified by proposing innovative solutions in order to see change in our societies. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Ashley. And you are right. If we don't stand for something, we will fall for anything. And so we're going to take a trip across the Atlantic, and we are going to have Lucky Abeng from Nigeria. And again, to that call to action in terms of capacity building, advocacy, and visibility, Lucky will speak to the role of the CYCN, or Commonwealth Youth Climate Network, on oceans. Lucky is an enthusiastic, sustainable development practitioner, environment and climate justice campaigner with over 3 years of experience working in environment and the development sector. Currently, he works at Climate and Sustainable Development Network Nigeria. Lucky is adept in working in climate change advocacy and sensitization projects geared towards policy influence and youth inclusion with evidence-based advocacy, actions, and fostering partnerships to advance a people-centered, right-based, just and inclusive approach to address climate and environmental challenges facing humanity and the planet. In addition, positively influencing public laws, policies, and practices in the context of climate justice, poverty reduction, and addressing development issues in Nigeria and on the African continent is squarely on his agenda. Lucky currently volunteers with the Commonwealth Youth Climate Change Network, where he serves as chair of the Participation and Grassroots Engagement Committee. And he also coordinates a youth-led organization in Nigeria called the SDGs Thursday, creating awareness and sensitization on the UN Agenda 2030. Lucky runs an agribusiness in Nigeria called One Man Hectare, where he uses a cluster model to enhance the value chain of rural cassava farmers in South region, that is, of Nigeria, with a long-term plan of producing ethanol to be blended with fuel as a way of contributing to reducing the effect of climate change through emissions from fossil fuel-powered cars. Lucky?
Hi, colleagues. Good morning. Can you hear me? Good. So my name is Lucky, and I'm happy to be here this morning to be speaking on the work of the Commonwealth Youth Climate Change Network and our engagement with the Commonwealth Blue Charter. The CYCN, as the chair of grassroots engagement and participation, currently have over 2,000 young persons cut across the 5 regions of the Commonwealth. And currently, with the engagement with the Commonwealth Blue Charter, lots of young persons across this region have showed interest to be part of this Blue Charter document. According to the United Nations, the ocean, their temperature, circulation, chemistry, and ecosystem play a fundamental role in making Earth habitable. Hence, the need to adopt measures that conserve and sustainably use the ocean, seas, and marine resources. For us at the Commonwealth Climate Change Network, we are constantly looking for ways to engage young persons. And in a survey recently, where we had young persons show interest to engage with the Blue Charter, the 10 action group that we have. Thank you. Thank you. So, with the engagement so far with young persons at the Commonwealth Climate Change Youth Network, we have gotten amazing number of young persons showing interest to engage with the Commonwealth Blue Charter document. Sorry, please, let's get my thought. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, thank you. So, just like I was saying, our engagement so far with the young persons in the Commonwealth Climate Change Youth Network has been amazing. For example, one of the action group mangrove restoration, and I think, what's that again? Yeah, for mangrove restoration, we have received amazing success stories from young persons who are currently creating beautiful, amazing advocacy and sensitization work in Kenya, and also I think in Nigeria we have some other young persons who are also engaged in cleaning the beach, and also we have in Sri Lanka. I can't remember how many of the engagement we have so far in Sri Lanka. Yeah, so so far so good. We've had very interesting engagement of young persons with the Commonwealth Blue Charter document. I think I'm just going to stop here while I take questions as they come. Yeah.
Thank you, Lucky. Next, we have also from the CYCN, we have Delicia Moaneka. She is a climate justice advocate and a gender rights activist. She is the Commonwealth Youth Climate Change Network's Vice Chair of Policy and Advocacy Committee, and she is the founder of Girl Up Tanzania Coalition, a United Nations Foundation campaign, and she is a pledge maker at this year's Generation Equality Forum. She has served on a number of boards promoting climate change and gender equality, and she is the Tanzanian Program Manager for the Sustainable Oceans Alliance and the Tanzanian Coordinator for Youngo's UNFCCC Oceans Voice. She's an environmentalist who has dedicated her life to ocean preservation and is currently working to advocate for girls in rural Tanzania. Delicia.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Oh, you can hear me? Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Delicia Monica. I am a gender rights activist and a ocean conservationist. So I would like to start by talking about my journey within the conservation, specifically ocean conservation. In 2010, in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, one of the fastest populated cities in Africa, a 17-year-old, I think I was 17 or 18, I began cleaning the ocean. We were 4 people. Ocean conservation is not only about what we are doing to try and conserve the ocean. It is also about all the people that are affected in the areas of the ocean, such as the people who are benefiting from the fisheries and aquaculture, the people who are living unsustainably on the fisheries and are supplying worldwide to the international markets to supply the fisheries industry, which is one of the fastest growing industries in the world. Before a gender rights activist and a ocean conservationist, I am part of, what am I saying? I'm a logistics management student in China. So sustainable fisheries is interlinked with international trade. International trade is one of the fastest growing, fisheries is one of the fastest growing industries. So that is why today I would like to speak about sustainable aquaculture, which is one of the part of one of the action groups in the Commonwealth. So what exactly am I concerned with? I am concerned with the women who are involved within the sustainable fisheries industry, who are not equipped with the right measures, with the right instruments and education, and are the ones that are doing the majority of the work within the fisheries industry. I believe that the Commonwealth, through their framework of creating blue action groups, are also serving as a way to create gender equality and fix the gender imbalances within the fisheries. Through how are they doing this? Through knowledge, technological support, and through this, they are reducing poverty and increasing the GDPs of the different countries that are part of the Commonwealth, 54 countries that are part of the Commonwealth action groups. I mean, the Commonwealth as a whole. Women have the potential to excel in sustainable fisheries. And it is only through the Commonwealth, not only through the Commonwealth, but through the support of the Commonwealth, women have the potential to sustainably fish and also have the technological and the knowledge to have the right instruments to not only produce and increase the economy, but to also conserve the environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Delicia. And I can now hand it over. One question, great. So we have time for a question, and I want to ask the panel in turn. So a number of you, or most of you, are engaged in direct action. And I just want a quick wrap around in terms of Delicia, for example. You said you began at 17 years old. What spurred you to that action? Why were you interested in doing that kind of ocean conservation and that kind of action? So that's my question to you. And to Ashley, my question is in terms of, and we spoke about small island developing states, big ocean states. And I want to chat about the Caribbean and the Pacific, where the most of our small island states in the Commonwealth are. And I want to talk about or ask you then, in terms of how do we as small island developing states overcome some of the issues that we face in the international arena in terms of being heard and being seen, and where the impact of what is happening at the international level and also by foreign actors and perhaps by government inaction as well, how we can combat that. Lucky, my question to you would be in terms of the network, the CYC and others. What role is there for the network to play in promoting youth action in the ocean space? So, Delicia?
I think that conservation is not something that we have much of a choice. I'd like to quote Greta, who said that the house is burning. The house has been burning, and I think now it is almost impossible for someone, even the average Joe who is not really engaged in conservation work, to overlook the fact that we all have to be involved, and it will affect each and every one of us, regardless of whether or not we want to be part of conservation. And that is my motive, I think.
Thank you. Definitely, we all have a part to play. Every little make a lot, in the words of Caribbean people. So to you, Ashley, in terms of what do we do, how do we combat it, how do we get our voices heard?
Well, thank you for that question, Madam Speaker. And I must say that in today's world, within the Caribbean and with the support of Oasis, then we are seeing Caribbean leaders rising up together. And I know in my speech, I spoke about the unity. And we are seeing that many Caribbean leaders and leaders from small island developing states are banding together to seek international attention from the international community, particularly those from developed nations. So what I would say is that the developing nations like small island developing states must continue to show the same consensus and unity when advocating on the international stage. Like currently, small island developing states are still seeking and advocating that developed countries commit to the 100 billion. And I think that I think for developed nations that they need to take the same ambitious steps in which developing nations are taking, because for instance, within our Barbados national determined contributions, our Barbados government has taken ambitious steps in order to combat the impact that climate change is having on our lives. We're aiming to become fossil free by the year 2030, and we just developed an adaptation plan called Roofs to Reefs. So I really believe that the developed community needs to take the same ambitious steps in really tackling climate change, and small island developing states needs to continue to work together as one so that our voices can be heard.
Definitely, I thank you. I thank you for your contribution and intervention there, and I think that is why organizations like the Commonwealth, and in particular the work that the Blue Charter team is doing in their action groups, bringing together countries on various thematic areas as it relates to the oceans, and building that consensus and building that unity, so to speak, amongst countries, so that they can advocate better and all voices could be heard. As we move to Lucky with the final question, and we spoke about unity at the national level or at the country level, intergovernmental. We are coming now to sort of the granular level, the individual, the young people on the ground, and talking about the network and the importance of networking and participating in groups like these, like the CYC and etc. Can you speak a bit to the importance of the network in promoting youth action?
Thank you, Bruce, for that question. As the CYCN, I think I'm just going to give a brief with my engagement with the network so far. I come from Nigeria and from the coastal region where we have lots of, we're surrounded by ocean actually, ocean and on all, and you see lots of young persons, some of them who are also members of the CYCN and also actively engaging at the grassroots level. I'll borrow from the words of Ashley that young persons also need to create their own non-governmental organization in engaging with the issue of the Blue Charter. We have young persons from the network who have been engaging over a couple of months now. And I think one of the things that is very prominent now is the fact that young persons don't want to be relegated to just the role of advocacy. They want to be part of the process. We have 10 action groups on the Blue Charter, and there's going to be an implementation plan of achieving this action, of implementing this action group. Young persons are craving from the CYCN, if you look at the last survey for interest to join the various action group, we had amazing interest, and they want to be part of the implementation process and not just being relegated to advocacy, sensitization, which is also one of the things that's been discussed in Cop26, that young persons need to be actively involved in the implementation. So first of all, they're already understanding the concept, the technicalities that's involved. Now, their role, they are also members of various other networks and platforms. And I think the CYCN, it's an active movement that is building up to engage actively. So aside just advocacy, the role of the CYCN also entails implementing some of these action groups that we have here. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Lucky, in terms of one, young people, not just on the advocacy and sensitization side, but also on the action side, their willingness to participate. They are very keen to get involved and to become active in those policy making and in those ideation spaces, and of course, the role of the network. So I want to thank my speakers. I'd like to thank Delicia, Ashley and Lucky for their time and sharing their perspectives and insights on the oceans with us. Thank you very much.
Really inspiring, and we're really pleased and thankful for your time this morning. And I think you'll all agree that there's been some wonderful steps forward and some wonderful initiatives that have been discussed here this morning. So just one more time, I'd like to thank everybody, all the youth speakers that were here this morning. Now I'd like to hand over to Judith Dement. She's from Rotary International and will be introducing the wonderful poster competition that they've been running across the across the UK, with over 4,000 entries from schools. So I will pass you on to Judith, and she'll talk more about the posters that you see around, the large posters that you see around, and about Rotary. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Heidi, for your invitation to be present today. The Rotary delegation to COP26 is delighted to be here to witness the outstanding talents of the young people from across the Commonwealth that we've just seen. Rotary International believes in developing the next generation of leaders. Our Interact and Rotaract clubs have programs to help young leaders build leadership skills, expand education, and learn about the world through service projects. And as we are all aware, the actions today that we take will have a lasting legacy on our children and grandchildren. The local Rotary Club of Helensburgh and Gowral-Lochside, here in the Glasgow area, decided to mark Cop26 in Glasgow by organising a poster competition for schools for 10 to 12-year-olds to give them a voice in the climate debate. Rotary clubs throughout Britain and Ireland were encouraged to participate, working with their local schools. The theme for the competition was mitigating climate change, and thousands of children took up the challenge across the country. And as Heidi said, we received nearly 4,000 entries. The children were invited to design a poster reflecting their views on how to adapt or mitigate climate change. The competition offered an unparalleled opportunity for children to engage in an initiative which highlights the key issues of climate change, as seen through the eyes of primary school children, and the action that should be taken to protect their world, excuse me, for future generations. And this is all reflected in the posters that you see around the room here today. These posters send their climate message to the people of the world, what they want the people of the world to do to make the world a better and safer place for their generation. And as you can see, the quality of entries were outstanding, and the winning entries have received much praise. The competition helped raise awareness in schools of the issues of climate change, and these discussions taking place at COP26 and enabled primary school children to feel that they were part of it. It also gives COP26 delegates an opportunity to see the work of young children and their views on climate change. And decisions taken here in Glasgow this week and next week will have a lasting impact in the future for these children. Regional winners were submitted to the Rotary Club of Helensburgh and Gowral-Lochside, who then organised an independent judging panel. And 20 posters were shortlisted, and these are the ones that are exhibited here today. And it now gives me great pleasure to announce the 3 winners. And I'm astounded that the talents that we have, all 3 winners are just 11 years old. So if I could have the next slide, please. In 3rd place is Lucy Santa from the Piper's Corner Preparatory School in High Wycombe in Buckinghamshire. And this is her winning entry. And I think you'll agree it's a wonderful concept for an 11-year-old. Next slide, please. In 2nd place is Austin Harris from the Methlick Primary School in Aberdeenshire. And again, a terrific design. And now I'm very excited to, if we could have the next slide, please, to announce the winner of the overall competition is Emma O'Donnell from the Kirkburton Middle School in West Yorkshire. Many congratulations to Emma, Austin, and Lucy, and indeed to all the entrants for providing an exceptional array of posters highlighting the urgent need to address climate change now. I would like to thank Tariq Durrani and John McPherson here today, and the Rotary Club of Helensburgh and Gowral-Lochside for their vision in running the competition. And I'd also like to thank the Commonwealth Secretariat for inviting us to be present here today. We look forward to continue working with the Commonwealth Youth Networks in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judith, for that. And we're just going to load our next section with a new video montage in relation to the launch of the new children's books on energy transition.
Years old. I'm from Singapore. I want children in 100 years' time to be able to do what I enjoy doing right now, like playing on the beach with my friends, paddling in the sea, or having clean air all around me. But that might be impossible if we let the earth get too warm. And the earth will get too warm unless we start using more clean energy. It's made me think more about how the world gets energy and also about the better ways that it could get energy, such as from the wind or the sun. What can I do? I'll do my best not to waste energy. I will switch off the light and read from the window instead. Countries can say no to coal and yes to low carbon energy sources. The countries of the world should work together and share ideas and solutions. And world leaders should also think of children in 100 years' time, or even 50 years, and try to imagine, where would they be playing? What kind of air will they be breathing?
We are the year 6 class gliding swans of Southfield Primary, St. Benedict College, Malta. We are a group of 21 strong and intelligent youngsters who want to be champions of change for a better future for us and the future generations.
We feel honored to be part of this Commonwealth conference where we can share together our concerns, solutions for our earth and our oceans.
Last year, we did a whole school project about climate change, the challenges and dangers our world is facing today. Every year we did a different project according to the ages. At the end of the primary school, children, their families, and the school educators were asked to measure their carbon footprint. No graphs were presented to show how much carbon dioxide we are putting in the air because of our actions. Our class drew about the effects of climate change on planet Earth, forest fires, the pollution from power plants, melting of ice, and the rise of the oceans. We also did drawings about the rise of health problems like asthma caused by the overuse of fuel oils. We also created a shopping bag from recycled material.
When we were presented with the books of Ellen Drummond, we immediately thought of the project we did last year. The 5 books are about the main issues of climate change and global warming. We like them mostly because they offer practical solutions of what can be done.
We really liked the books of Ellen Drummond. We immediately went on the internet and found out that Ellen Drummond has written other books on energy. Besides these 5 books, we also listened to the story of Energy Island, read out by Future Energy System Story.
My name is Natalia Marie. I like especially the illustrations made by Mr. Drummond himself. When I grow up, I would like to be an illustrator of the books for children myself.
My name is Marta Vella. I like writing about climate change and how we can work together to make the world a better place. When I grow up, I want to be a writer like Mr. Drummond.
My name is Alaya Buzati. I read the book, Roads to Clean Energy. The book contains some simple facts about energy. It says that everyone has a part to play. The world has to change the way it works and produces energy. Now I have to start using wind, water, and the sun, and not coal, oil, or gas. We understand this is one of the big issues the world is facing today. Maybe like what Mr. Drummond is suggesting, we can start small. Maybe small countries or small cities can show the way. Malta is also small, and who knows, maybe one of us from this class can lead the way.
I am Anjulita, age 9, from from the Sri Ram School, Aravali, India. I believe to flourish for generations, we need an innovative strategy. Fairness, partnership, respecting local resources, and inclusivity can form a strong foundation on clean, green energy. It educates girls and keeps families healthy and ensures prosperity.
Namaste. My name is Kian, age 10, and I am from India. Our everyday lives depend on energy, and it's important to use sustainable energy because without it, we will run out of ways to power our world. What I really love about sustainable energy is that these energy sources are renewable, reliable, and affordable.
Yes, it will be a long, difficult, and slow process, but together we can because of a shared belief in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means the world is our family.
The transition to renewable energy is already happening. However, we need to be more smart about the utilization. Every nation must evaluate the resources that they are abundant in and must harness them to the full capacity. For example, my country, India, receives abundant sunlight, so it should focus on harnessing solar energy. Also, we need to ensure that this transition is inclusive, fair, and equitable. If I have access to electricity all the time, then why should I actually care about clean and affordable energy? Well, yes, because the harmful impacts of non-renewable sources impact everyone and not just a few. And as I am a part of this beautifully integrated world community, it's my responsibility to bring about this change.
As the editor of a weekly children's newspaper, I shall drive narratives for better usage of technology and build partnerships. I shall lead by example to bring about a mindset change, talking and demonstrating to our communities and engaging with leaderships.
As a youngster, I would like to create a clean energy club in my school which will inform the fellow students about renewable sources and create clean energy ambassadors that will spread the word to the community at large.
It's adorable, isn't it? So cute. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who's joining us here at this event, whether you're live with us in Glasgow or you're joining remotely from around the world in India, in Malta, in Nigeria, in Sri Lanka, in Singapore. Welcome, everyone. My name is Alache Fisher, and I'm a legal advisor with the Commonwealth Secretariat, and I'm the project lead for the Commonwealth Sustainable Energy Transitions Agenda, or the CSET agenda for short. Let me start by saying a massive thank you to everyone who is participating in this event, and particularly to our very special guests joining us remotely from the Ewell Castle School in Surrey, England, from Greenwood House School in Lagos, Nigeria, and from Safi Primary School in the southeastern region of Malta. Kids, if you can give us a big wave if you can hear me. There they go. Okay, great. I'd also like to thank the children of the Sri Ram School in India. You just heard them now. Miss Su Wong Siu Min from Singapore. Miss Claire Wong Siu Min from Singapore, and Master Jessie Fisher from Cranbrook School in Kent, who have also been part of the beta group of readers for the books that we will be presenting today. So I'll tell you a bit about the CSET agenda. It's an action-oriented, and earlier on, Aurelia had emphasized on the word action because we need to take action. So the CSET agenda is an action-oriented initiative, and it's a platform for collaboration amongst Commonwealth member countries to accelerate the transition to low-carbon energy systems and the achievement of SDG 7 on universal access to clean, reliable, and affordable energy. The CSET team is leading an exciting, innovative initiative where we want to help grow energy literacy and innovation among school-age children across the Commonwealth. And we're delighted at the opportunity, of course, leveraging this huge platform of Cop26 to highlight this initiative and start the conversation amongst member countries, partner organizations on the need for a space for engagement of children in the global discourse on sustainable energy. So now we will next hear from Alan Drummond. Alan is the author and illustrator of the books. Alan is an artist illustrator and he authors children's books on clean energy and sustainability. Alan will share with us why the themes in this book are so important to him and the inspiration behind the stories in the books. Alan, please. Alan is joining us remotely. Yes, over to you, Alan.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me. Can you wave if you can hear me? Can you hear me, everyone? Brilliant. Yeah, okay. And Nalache, thank you very much for asking me to join everyone. I've really enjoyed listening to all of the talk this morning, and I've got to say to all of you that I really feel that I've seen the future through all of you young people, because you know, we've kind of handed the problem over to you. You are very fortunate, but you've got a lot of work to do in terms of working towards sustainability and towards clean energy. Alache gave me the opportunity to write and illustrate these 3 books. And the Commonwealth is incredibly well placed, with 52 countries all around the world, incredibly well placed to have like a global picture of what's going on. Here I am sitting in England upstairs in my house, and I have done some traveling in my life, but what you'll get by connecting with everybody in the Commonwealth is a much more global view of what's going on. I've been fascinated by issues of sustainability, and I've got to tell you guys, only 10 years ago, the word green was a very popular word to describe, you know, issues that we're talking about today. But of course, it's become a lot more about sustainability and clean energy. So I think if I was going to ask you guys to take 2 really important takeaways from what we've been talking about, it is to ask yourself, what does sustainability mean? And also, what does clean energy mean? And I think if you can answer those 2 questions for yourself, then you'll really be focused on some of the issues that are going on. Now, I could go on and on and on boringly, but I'd really like to have some questions from people. Anybody want to ask me any questions? Because I think if I get questions from you, it will help me to see how you read the books and really kind of address the questions. And I'm happy to talk about how I did the books, how I wrote them, but also some of the issues as well, some of the science that's in the books. So, Alache, do you think that's a good idea that I'm asking people questions? What do you think?
Thanks, Alan. So we do have a Q&A session after we have had time to hear from the children who are the beta group that read the books. Yeah. So we'll circle back to you once we've done that. Is that all right, Alan?
Yes, that's fine. Yeah.
Great, okay. Great.
All right.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you. So I'd now like to invite the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, the Right Honourable Patricia Scotland QC, to give her keynote remarks and to actually present the books to the world.
Well, firstly, good morning, everyone. It's a real delight for me to be here. Those of you who know me know that I would rather spend all my time with young people, so I will tell you that it's going to be very difficult to get me out of this discussion with all of you. And I really want to say how privileged I am. Oops. Take my mask. Is that better? Can you hear me a little bit better now?
Yes.
The Commonwealth, as you know, is made up of 54 countries. It's about 2.6 billion people, but 60% of our Commonwealth is under the age of 30. And so the Commonwealth is absolutely committed to investing in our young people and placing them at the very center of sustainable and inclusive development. The 20th conference of the Commonwealth Education Ministers really stressed the need for the promotion of climate change awareness, including through mass education beyond the classroom, stronger engagement with the private sector and other stakeholders, and really to try and make sure that we had increased awareness of the emerging alternative clean energy sources and the mobilization of indigenous and community knowledge. So it's critical that our young people who will be most impacted by the effects of climate change really understand the nature and the role of energy in the world and in their daily lives, and are presented with the opportunities to participate in the global discourse on the energy transition. What they say, what they think, what they feel is critically important to where we will be, not just now, but in the future. So today we are all will be presenting a series of books on the energy transition and sustainable energy sources. And it's been absolutely delightful to hear these new climate warriors who are so young, so engaged, and so inspirational. These books are targeted at children aged between 7 and 12 years old. So these books present the concept of sustainable and inclusive energy transition in what we hope is a digestible and engaging format. And we hope it'll really encourage young readers to find out how they can be a part of the change we need to make in our world. And we'll also be listening to children from across the Commonwealth who have read these books speak on why the themes in the books are so important to them. And they're going to be sharing with us their thoughts on how they can contribute to finding the solutions to the global energy challenge. So these books herald a new cross-cutting CSET youth action group on energy literacy and innovation for children, launching early next year, 2022. So we welcome all our member countries, all 54 members and their partners working in this space to step forward and participate in this initiative. And this is the generation who will be entrusted with carrying forward the change that we all want to make in our world. So working hard to make this not just a dream, but a reality here in COP26 and beyond. This is the COP where we've gone from aspiration to action. And I hope that these 3 books will be a real contribution to that action. And I hope all of you have seen them. There's the Roads to Clean Energy. There is Energy and Me, if you can see these. And the last but not least is the Road to the Energy Around Us. So that's the 3rd book. And I think since the children have read these, may I just say that some of the adults may find them instructive as well. So I think children, you may have to ask your families and friends who are above the age of 12, whether they know the contents of what is in this book. So I hope you'll cross-examine your mothers, your fathers, your aunts, your uncles, and particularly your grandparents, because I know they'll have a lot of wisdom. So thank you very much indeed. I think we're now going to take questions and presentations from our wonderful climate warriors who you've already seen a little bit about. And I am really encouraged because they are our future. And I think we're going to be safe in their hands. So do you want me to sit here?
Thank you, SG. Hi kids, can you give us a wave if you can hear us then? Thank you, we can see you, you can hear us. So for this next segment, I'm going to be inviting Miss Aurelia Bruce. She'll be moderating the conversation between the SG and our VVIPs, our very, very important participants, the readers of the books. Aurelia is a young professional working with the Commonwealth Secretariat Youth Section. Aurelia.
Thank you so much, Alache. And thank you to you all for joining us. Thank you especially to our specially invited guests. I am told that we have Ewell Castle School, just wave of hands. Hi. And then we also have Greenwood House School. And we have from Malta, Safi Primary School. Guys, we are at Cop26 in Glasgow, Scotland. Do you know where Scotland is? Yes, okay. I'm seeing Ewell is on it. Safi Primary, do you know where Scotland is? Yes, yes. And Greenwood, do you know where we are? Greenwood, do you know where Scotland is?
Yes.
Yes, we do. And now we are having a very, very important meeting here in Scotland today. And this is just one of those sessions where we want to get you involved. We want to hear from you about what's happening. So have you heard about what's happening in Scotland with COP26, where governments, leaders, I see nods around the room, governments and leaders are coming together to discuss our future. I say it because I'm not too far from your age, I hope, but we're coming together to discuss our future. And one of the ways that we're doing that today is through these 3 books. And I know that you read the books. Yeah, hands if you've read the books. Yes. And you've read them, and now I know you have some questions for our Secretary General as well as for the author. And so I want to start with Ewell Castle School from Surrey, United Kingdom. Over to you.
I'm Kitty and I live in England. I'm passionate about climate change because the temperature on Earth is rising rapidly. We as a community need to act now. We need to act before the temperature gets too high for us to handle. We need to do something that matters and educate others about how we can take steps into a better future where we have cleaner foundations and a clean and healthy Earth. We need to engage our human abilities to find a better way to live without killing Earth and spreading pollution into our atmosphere. That's why we've enjoyed learning about clean energy from these books. Thank you. Nice enough. Hello,
Sorry, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Felipe. I go to Ewell Castle School in Surrey, England. I'm going to be talking about how climate change solutions are important to me. It is vital that people should start using renewable energy whenever possible. I would like every house in the UK to have access to affordable solar panels that they can use. In the south of England, there is already a successful offshore wind farm. Could this be expanded across the world? This power shouldn't just be used for lighting homes, but to also charge cars and e-bikes. These vehicles help improve local as well as global air quality. For all the kids listening to this, if you want to make your voice heard, protest and even think of crazy and creative ways to tackle the problem. Thank you for listening, and let's fix our climate for a brighter future for us all.
Thank you, Felipe. Do we have another?
As the Secretary General of Commonwealth, you must have a wealth of experience building relationships with people and working with different governments around the world. What tips would you give us to discuss environmental actions with our parents and teachers to encourage them to make more sustainable choices?
To do is what you're doing absolutely now, and that is talking about it. Because the truth is, each of you are a leader, and you're a leader today, and you will be the leaders of tomorrow. So what you do, what you think, what you say really, really matters. So if I were you, what I would do is take these books, really read and understand them. You know that your teachers are there to assist you, and then go home and have the conversation with your parents and your aunts and your uncles and your friends and your grandparents. See what they know about this and how you can together, firstly as individuals, then as a family, then as a school, then as a community, do together. Because the thing that I've learned from talking to all our leaders is that none of us can do this on our own. But if all of us come together and if we think positively about the concrete things that we can do to make a difference, then we are on our way. And what's great about what's happening now in COP is we're not just talking about what things we should do and could do, we're actually concentrating on what we can do, not tomorrow, but right now. So that's what I would say. Get together, plan, plot, have a campaign, and then carry it out, because you can do this. You really can.
Thank you, SG. And I was very surprised to hear in one of the video montages about the editor of the school newsletter and another young person starting a climate club. And so definitely young people, children are taking action. I know we have a question and a presentation from Greenwood House School in Nigeria.
Good day, everyone. My name is Mbatidan Dominic Estier. I am 10 years old, and we are students of Greenwood House School, Ikoyi, Lagos, Nigeria. Here with me are Aliyah Osunlola, Lashia Akirimade, Abdulsamad Kabir Rabir, and Abdullah Yusuf. Having read these three amazing books written by Alan Drummond, I now care so much about sustainable energy because it makes the world a better place by reducing the excessive amount of greenhouse gases which cause climate change by trapping heat.
I am Abdullah Yusuf. I am 9 years old. I am from Nigeria. To me, the most important message in the books are to stop the carbon emission on Earth because it causes harm to living things present on Earth. We are to change the form of energy to renewable and sustainable energy, which include solar energy from the sun, hydro energy from water, wind energy from air, and thermal energy from hot rocks underground. Thank you, Alan Drummond, for writing these three books about sustainable and renewable energy for children. Hello, everybody. My name is Soluwa Ashafi. I am 10 years old. And my question is directed to the Secretary General of the Commonwealth Secretariat. Dear Madam, how does the Commonwealth Secretariat support Commonwealth countries like energy transition?
Well, one of the main ways that we're doing this is by creating the agenda, the CSAT agenda, to enable us to help our member states to know what they can do and how they can do it. And as I'm listening to you and I've listened to your colleagues in England, I'm thinking, wouldn't it be wonderful if you and they and those other schools in Malta and all the other 54, what about if you all came together and decided that you would have your own action group, which will be just like the Commonwealth leaders are putting together with the CSAT agenda? Because we don't just need the leaders to do this, we actually would benefit from your ideas as to how we could implement these things on the ground. And so the countries are coming together with their energy ministers and we are sharing expertise, we are sharing what works, but we're also sharing what does not work so that we can together get there faster, better and easier. So that's what we in the Commonwealth are doing, because we know that since we're 54 countries from 5 different regions, small ones, big ones, island states, landlocked states, that if we do come together, we'll find a better way for energy transition, which is sustainable, cleaner, and blue and green, because we've got to take the benefit of our land, our sea, and our atmosphere. So I think that's what we're doing, but I think that's what you may be able to do as well. And I think I need your help, don't you?
Yep, I see some thumbs up. We have all of these young people here on the call, and I'm sure those watching are ready and willing to help, yeah? Hands if you're willing to help. Ready to help? Ready to help. All hands on deck. And we have Safi Primary School. I heard that you have a question for the author, for Mr. Alan Drummond.
Hello, my name is Gianluca, and I am 10 years old. I live in Malta. I go to St. Benedict School in South, and I have something to say. The world around us is changing. CO2 emissions have been disastrous the last 50 or so years. The average world temperature has increased by about 1 degree Celsius. Fortunately, not all energy comes from fossil fuels. Some clean energy sources are the sun, which gives us solar power, and water, which gives us hydropower. Solar power and hydropower are sources of sustainable energy, which together make up 22% of all energy consumed. Is it possible to increase the use of sustainable energy to 28% by the end of 2030?
Wow.
My name is Marta Vella. I think global warming is a big problem, but there are ways to stop it. For example, instead of using a car, we can walk or use a bike or the bus. We are not the only living things on the planet that are facing this problem. Koalas and other animals that live in the forest are struggling because the hot climate is causing a lot of forest fires, which kills every living thing in the forest. Other animals that are struggling are the polar bears and the penguins. This is because the ice they live on is melting with global warming. Some animals might become extinct, so we have to get together to reduce pollution and save our animals and the planet. Thank you, Mr. Drummond, for the interesting books you wrote.
Hello, my name is Giacomo Portelli. I am 10 years old. I worry about global warming. The main problem is CO2. CO2 reminds me a lot of cars. Every time we use cars to go from one place to another, we produce CO2. The world cannot cope with all the CO2 we have around us, so I had an idea to put small turbines on car roofs. I really hope that someone will take up my idea and create such a thing. Mr. Drummond, maybe this will give you an idea for a new book about wind-powered cars.
My name is Alaya Buzutil. I am 10 years old. I read the book Roads to Clean Energy. The book contains simple facts about energy. It says that everyone has a part to play. The world has to change the way it works and produces energy. Now I have to start using wind, water, and the sun. Another way to help the world is not to waste water and electricity. Don't forget to turn off the water tap and switch off the electricity when not in use. I would like to repeat the question Mr. Drummond wrote at the end of the book. There are many roads to clean energy. Which one are you on?
Hello, my name is Yamzam Meet, and I'm 10. I make part of the Eco School community. I am very worried about this threat we are all facing. I like to follow on YouTube 2 YouTubers, Mark Rober and Mr. Beast. Last week on 29th October 2021, Mark Rober and Mr. Beast launched Team Seas. They want to collect $30 million to collect 30 million pounds of trash from the Earth's oceans. Since in the Commonwealth there are many small islands like Malta, maybe the Commonwealth can do something about the seas surrounding the Commonwealth Islands.
Good morning and hello. My name is Shalaya, and I have a question for Alan Drummond. How and why did you choose these topics for your books?
Wow. Is it my turn to speak now, do you think? Yeah, thank you very much, everybody, particularly the people in Malta, because you've actually asked me some quite tough questions there. And yeah, well, I think the first thing to say is that the Commonwealth itself, 54 countries, I stand corrected, you know, has got so many of the problems in so many different ways, large and small. So to ask the questions through the Commonwealth and to try and find the answers through the Commonwealth, I think is a brilliant way. And the idea of youngsters getting together to create their own conference, their own committee, their own movement, I think is brilliant. Now, I had a lot of help with these books. The Commonwealth has worked very hard to find out exactly what the problems are. And if I go back to these two questions, what is sustainability and what is clean energy? I think if you keep those two things in your mind, it will help you to see very clearly what we're talking about. I would ask you what sustainability is, but it's a little bit difficult to reach out to everybody and get individual answers. But if you think about it really simply, sustainability is all about not using everything up. So I think if you Google sustainability, it's a big subject, but I think that's basically what it's all about. It's having something in reserve and planning so that you don't use everything up. We've got fossil fuels out there, things like coal and oil, which will eventually be used up. So that's one reason for thinking sustainably. But if you think about your average farmer or somebody who's working with the cycle of the year, they have to anticipate what's coming around and what can be used, what can be harvested. So sustainability is great. And that kind of echoes into things like not wasting things, looking after your trash, lots of different things, saving energy, switching lights off, staying warm, or even staying cool, because a lot of energy is used all around the world to keep us cool as well as warm. So sustainability, not using everything up. And then clean energy is something that I had to really look at, thanks to the Commonwealth asking me to really consider that. And I think the clean energy bit really is all about climate change, because we're trying to reduce CO2. And we know that CO2 is produced by coal, burning coal and oil and fossil fuels, but it can also come from burning straw and wood. So if we can move towards cleaner energy, then that's really important. So keep those two things in mind. Projects can be big and small. I was thinking about your question. I'm not sure who asked the question about wind turbines on the roofs of cars. Who was that who asked that question? Can you put your hand up? Somebody in Malta asked that question. Yeah. Let's talk about that. So you have this idea that there could be like a turbine on the roof of a car that generates electricity, yeah?
Yes, because the wind turbine might work with the air resistance of the moving car.
Okay. Now, what's your name? Your name is?
Giacomo.
Jacopo. Yeah, nice to meet you, Jacopo. Thank you for that question. That's an amazing question, isn't it? Because you're driving along and the fan is turning. So yes, you could get some electricity from that fan, but at the same time, that fan would be slowing the car down. So it starts to ask questions of things like science, doesn't it? You'd have to ask a scientist or a physicist about that and how that works.
I also thought of making a solar panel on the roof.
Yeah, and a solar panel too. Now, the solar panel is actually a better idea because it's taking the sun that's always beating down on the roof of the car if it's sunny. But what I wanted to say to you, Jacopo, is that you might be interested in maths, or you might be interested in science, or you might be interested in art, and you might want to draw and design things. So all of you guys out there at school, whatever you're interested in, whatever you're studying, even leadership or politics or writing, you can help towards the whole issue of the issues that we're talking about. So I would say, Jacopo, that with a car, one of the most interesting ways you can use the energy of the car is when you put the brakes on, and lots of electric cars generate electricity as the car slows down through the brakes. So people have thought about those things, but you guys at the age you're at, with skills in science, physics, maths, writing, drawing, design, you can help to solve some of these problems. So I think it's amazing, Jacopo, that you've thought about that. And have some discussions with your friends at school about the science of, I guess, how cars move and how much energy they use up. But thank you for the question. That's really great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alan, for the engagement there. And I want to just wrap up. I know we are having a very riveting discussion. SG, I hope that you have space in your awards, your innovation awards, because there's a crop coming up here. You're not going to have enough awards for them. So I want to hand over to you, SG, for your closing.
Well, firstly, I want to say a huge thank you to all the children, because all the children, all of you, are actually my children, because I am the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, and therefore my job is to think about how I can serve all of you. And I hope that each and every one of you will go on to our website, which is the Commonwealth.org, because we're doing lots of things. I know some of you said, well, what are we going to do about cleaning up the oceans? We've created, amongst our family, something called the Blue Charter. And this Blue Charter was agreed by every single one of your leaders. And they have committed themselves to delivering on the Blue Charter. And we in the Commonwealth are just about to do another charter, we hope, called the Charter for Living Lands. So we want not just our seas to be safe, we want our lands to be safe, and we've got something which we're calling common sensing, where we're using spatial data to understand more about what we can do. So I would love it if you went onto our website, you looked at what we are doing, and then could think, how can you help us to do even better? Because I think it's going to take all of us. And the good thing I have to tell you is that our Commonwealth has always been committed to climate change. Way back in 1989, before any of you were born, and definitely before even some of your parents were born, our Commonwealth decided that we would address this issue of climate change because we knew it was a threat. So I am thrilled to have had this opportunity to speak to you, to listen to what you have to say, but I'm going to ask you to promise that this will not be the end of our discussion. This will be the beginning. So I'll want to hear what you've done, how you've done it, and all the brilliant ideas that you have, because it would be wonderful if one day many of you would be able to contribute and be part of our Innovation Award winners. I've said before, human genius got us into this mess, and human genius is going to have to get us out. And something tells me that I've got a lot of genius here with us today. So thank you for what you've done. Thank you for reading the books, but a big thank you for each of you as to how you're going to help us change the world, make it a better place, and make sure we do not reach that 1.5 that so many need us to do in order for all of us to stay alive. So thank you so much indeed. And I want everyone here to give you a big round of applause.
Thank you, SG, and thank you to all of our schools that participated. Of course, the Ewell Castle Primary School in Surrey, of course, the Greenwood House School and Safi Primary School. My job here is simple: to thank you, those of you in the audience, and of course, those of you viewing. You can get a copy of the books on our website. So you can go onto the Commonwealth's website and download the books. Again, read them in your homes, in your classrooms, and of course, help your steward, your child, your ward to be as updated and perhaps as innovative as some of the young people we've heard here today. So thank you, and this is where we close.
I imagine that's our song. Well done. Well done, guys. Thank you. Big round of applause for Maya for her speech. Applause to You need to turn it off, Karen. How? You move the mouse over. Anything. And just quickly. It's not being recorded. It's fine. They've turned us off. It's not being recorded. Yeah, so you read just. Oh, fine. I don't want to get in the way. It's really hard to. Sorry. No, the camera's live. Yeah. Guys, well done. Brilliant. Well done.
all of our nations of the world and compounded by the COVID-19 pandemic. The recent IPCC report of 2021 leaves no one in doubt of the urgency and the speed required for climate actions to avert further climate catastrophes right across the globe, and especially to many developing, small and vulnerable countries, of which the majority are in the Commonwealth member states, including Eswatini. The Kingdom of Eswatini is considered one of the most climate vulnerable and exposed countries in the southern African region. Some of the key climatic challenges include significant variations in the precipitation patterns, higher temperatures, and increase in frequency and intensity of severe weather events such as droughts, floods, and cyclones. Consequently, the country has been facing increasing intensity and frequency of climate-induced disasters, in particular, the sustained and pressing drought conditions with direct impacts on rain-fed agriculture and other key sectors of the economy. And the Commonwealth Secretariat, through its Commonwealth Climate Finance Access Hub, continues to provide human and institutional support to the government of Eswatini to enhance the country's response to climate change. The Commonwealth Secretariat is providing in-country technical expertise, capacity building, and targeted support on accessing climate finance for expediting the implementation of Eswatini's NDCs. Support is being provided through the deployment of a long-term Commonwealth National Climate Finance Advisor, and interventions include developing and deploying different tools and strategies related to climate finance that match the strategic priorities of the country, along with the development of climate change project concepts and proposals. So since its inception in 2016, as of September of this year, 2021, the Commonwealth Climate Finance Access Hub has secured $44.1 million in climate finance for our member countries, including $3 million of country co-financing spread across 32 approved projects. That's 12 adaptation, 3 mitigation, and 17 cross-cutting projects. As you can see, the majority of the projects we have successfully delivered are adaptations. So when we're looking at the 1.5 to stay alive and saying that the 100 billion that we need needs to be 50% mitigation and at least 50% adaptation, it's significant that in working with our member countries, that is actually being delivered through our Climate Finance Access Hub process. And the Commonwealth National Climate Finance Advisors have provided approximately 71 training initiatives and approximately 1,475 number of government officials trained, thereby contributing to both institutional and human capacity building. We've heard so clearly what our member states have said, that it cannot be that we are just coming in to do something for our member states. We have to work with our member states, transfer expertise and knowledge so that they are empowered and enabled to do this for themselves on a continuing basis. And we're ramping up the capacity of our member states, not only to deliver for their own countries, but just as significantly to deliver for each other. So the Commonwealth Climate Finance Advisors are working in unison, sharing their expertise, sharing the knowledge that is coming from working with our member states. And recently, the Commonwealth Secretariat, in collaboration with the NDC Partnership, under its Climate Action Enhancement Package, Nichols provided technical assistance to the government of Eswatini to undertake a climate public expenditure, and institutional review, and also develop a strategy to enhance the private sector engagement in the NDC actions. And that's what we launched earlier this week, to a lot of warm applause and congratulations to Eswatini for undertaking this work, and is an opportunity for us to highlight Sam, who has done such great work as our advisor. And I think, Sam, you're going to become a bit of a rock star. So while the climate public expenditure and institutional review is a view of the strengthening of the Kingdom of Eswatini's climate action program and the climate finance management in the country, the private sector strategy really aims to enhance the private sector engagement in financing and in supporting and implementing technically sound and financially viable risk-informed mitigation and adaptation actions, and therefore really contributing to the implementation of Eswatini's NDC. So today, the Commonwealth Secretariat is really pleased to officially present these two important documents. That's the Climate Public Expenditure and Institutional Review, and the Private Sector Engagement Strategy for NDC implementation to the Kingdom of Eswatini as the country embarks on the journey towards the full implementation of its ambitious revised NDCs, contributing to the realization of the goal of the Paris Agreement. And the significance of these two documents as strategic interventions really cannot be overemphasized, in that they are both critical for Eswatini's NDC investment planning, integration of climate change into the national budgeting and planning processes, as well as supporting the development of bankable projects for Eswatini. And the Commonwealth Secretariat will continue its support of the Kingdom of Eswatini in its efforts to better adapt to the impacts of climate change and mitigate its effects on the nation towards achieving a low carbon and climate resilient development. But can I emphasize that when we work with one of our member states, in effect, we're working with all of our member states, because what we learn, what we cull from the experience of working in this intense way with our member state then becomes portable, transferable skills, which helps us to better inform what we do with everyone else. And the second point I just want to emphasize is there is a real importance of our small states, because in effect, being able to deliver holistically for our small states enables us to pilot what may work in other states. My own country of birth, Dominica, is 72,000 people. A friend from Lagos once told me, Secretary General, but that is only one street in Lagos. To which I said, yes, but it's a whole country. So we can model in our small states integrated, regenerative forms of development, which then become portable models for some of our cities, because we know that if we look at the long-term delivery, the economies of our world will be driven by our cities, and therefore our small states can really be the drivers of innovation, inclusion, and regeneration. So I want to thank Eswatini for the work they're doing, not only for the people of Eswatini, but I want to say a big thank you for the people of our whole Commonwealth, because there are almost 2.6 billion of us, but we will need all of us working together so that we can be the difference that we really want to make. So I want to thank everyone who has worked on this, both within Eswatini in our secretariat and outside, because that wisdom that we've culled from the whole secretariat, from the whole Commonwealth, has been shared with our great partners in Eswatini. And I'll take this opportunity to say a big thank you to the director, because I know that the burden is falling heavily on her shoulders. And just to point out, for some reason, we have an all-female panel.
Thank you very much. You're right, Honorable Patricia Scotland, Secretary General for the Commonwealth, for those encouraging words. Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for the Secretary General and for Eswatini for this achievement that we are looking at today. I'll spend some time to just allow Dr. Ruth to just give very brief remarks to build on the Secretary General's comments and maybe focus on more private sector and how it can contribute to implementation of NDCs.
Thank you, Carol. And SG, always inspiring. And also you took the words out of my mouth about the female panel. But we thank all the men who are both in this audience as well as have contributed, not least Sam among them, for contributing to this work. All I want to add is to what SG has already mentioned, is that the Secretariat is always, Commonwealth Secretariat is always ahead of the curve. If you look at these two reports, the report talks about public expenditure and institutional review. And this is going ahead of even ensuring there is financial commitment for ensuring our NDCs. So we're progressing already to look at what our public resources, the status is, and how can we expand them and reviewing them to see how they can be even better utilized in order to enable finances, much needed finances, to address our NDCs. And the other important thing about the private sector, if all of us know that COP26, the biggest new thing about, or the push in the COP26 is about engagement with the private sector, enhancing the contributions of private sector to give access to funding, because they have lots of money, but they don't know how or where to give it. And here we have these reports in advance of that. So I just want to say this, when I was reviewing these reports, it just makes me proud of our teams working. And the importance is we are special because we work closely with our member countries. It's a partnership. And together, we're able to produce such high quality reports. So I just want to add the support and congratulations and thanks to the country and to our teams working away. We are doing this very quietly and delivering. We're not making noise, but then the proof is in the reports that we are going to be presenting today. We'll have Dudu speak a bit more, and we'll have the team who will be presenting the technical reports. Thank you, SG, and thanks to all of you for the work you've done.
Thank you very much, Dr. Katumuri, and re-echoing the support that is coming from the Commonwealth Secretariat, from the team up there, trickling down to the countries. We appreciate the leadership, but also the demonstration of passion into this kind of work is also motivating us to move even faster to work with countries to ensure that we deliver on what the Commonwealth for Climate is standing for. At this moment, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite Ms. Masina, Director in Eswatini for Environment and Meteorological Services. If you can just come and welcome our guests.
Thank you very much, Carol. A very good morning to our Right Honorable Her Excellency Patricia, the Commonwealth Secretary General, and to Dr. Ruth, and also to everyone in the room, good morning. We are very, very happy as Eswatini to be here today, having received this lovely documents that we have had the support to prepare with Sam, who has been very, very active in making sure that we deliver on time, and we are very appreciative of that. A lot have been said about the public expenditure report and the private sector engagement strategy, which is very important for us in Eswatini to ensure that we are able to fast track the implementation of our NDC. I will not go very much more into that, except say that indeed we appreciate this report and we see ourselves being able to move at improved and fast way towards upscaling our climate action, having this information with us. Eswatini is a small country, and the Secretary General has already talked about the importance of implementation in small countries in ensuring that we also learn lessons that can be implemented and replicated elsewhere. However, being small, we have a lot of variation in terms of in terms of the topography and the weather in the country, and this leaves us vulnerable in a special way. And that being said, globally we have a 1.1 increase so far in temperature, 1.1 degrees Celsius increase over a period of about 120 years. But in Eswatini, over a period of 40 years, we have about 0.7 degrees. That already tells you that this is not uniform and we are really affected. And the vulnerabilities that we're seeing in the country are very, very critical. Most of the Emaswati are living supported by subsistence agriculture, which is rain-fed, and even our other economic sectors are supported by agriculture. And with all that is happening, increasing temperatures, reduced rainfall, changes in the distribution of rainfall, we are really affected and becoming more vulnerable. And this creates more vulnerabilities that are subsequent to this, which end up leading to other things, including even gender violence and gender-based violence, and also problems with the youth, because with no jobs that are because jobs are being affected by the productivity in the country, it's becoming all difficult. And having said that, we also note that our contribution in terms of GHG, the Honorable Minister did say the other day that we are at 0.007, but also when you look at the emissions per capita, we are ranking at about 174 in the world, which means we are down there. But still, we are committed to mitigation, and we are also committed to ensure that we move towards adapting and make sure that we improve resilience, and our economy and our people can continue to survive and live a happy life where happiness is measured by a lot of things, including being able to live and have food and have all the economic supports that they need. We are therefore appreciative of these documents because we believe that they will help us implement our NDC, which will take us forward in that regard. And I will not go into more details with what we did in doing the NDC and what it contains, as the team is going to talk into that. But I really appreciate this and look forward to us continuing working together, not only with the Commonwealth, but also with all other partners that will assist us ensure that we get the resources and support that we need to make sure that we deliver on our targets and make good use of the support that we have received. Thank you very much, and thank you to all of you.
Thank you very much, Director, for those remarks, and also clarifying and just indicating the linkage to implementation of the NDC, so we don't lose sight of why we are doing all this work in the countries. The ultimate goal is that we contribute to the Paris Agreement and to achieve the global goal on global warming and the temperature rise. Thank you very much for those remarks. At this moment, we'll take a breather and just have a watch on a video presentation from the Commonwealth Climate Finance Access Hub.
climate change program is delivered through our flagship initiative, the Commonwealth Climate Finance Access Hub. We're looking to strengthen our existing partnerships, which we have with the Global NDC Partnership, with UNITA, and the Africa NDC Hub. We also welcome the forging of new partnerships for enhanced support to meet the climate needs of Commonwealth member countries.
The NDC partnership harnesses the catalytic power of its close to 200 members to achieve the Paris and Sustainable Development Goals. Through our Climate Action Enhancement Package, we're pleased to be working with the Commonwealth Climate Finance Access Hub in Belize, Eswatini, Jamaica, and Zambia to map, track, and mobilize climate finance for transformational mitigation and adaptation action, making climate ambition a reality.
Apart from climate change project proposal development, knowledge sharing, and capacity building, the Commonwealth Climate Finance Access Hub supported the government of Belize in two important aspects under the CAPE initiative. A climate finance landscape study has been carried out, which provides a detailed analysis on the climate finance flows in the recent years, including challenges as well as opportunities. Based on that, a 5-year climate finance strategy has been developed, which provides an integrated and a strategic approach to the government to access finance effectively and efficiently. Beyond the CAPE initiative, the Commonwealth National Climate Finance Advisor will continue to be based in the country and provide direct support to the government to roll out this finance strategy and access more finance to Belize to meet their ambitious and recently updated NDC targets.
So also in addition to the support that I provide for Zambia in terms of accessing climate finance, in the last 1 year, Commonwealth Climate Finance Access Hub in Zambia supported the country of Zambia in terms of enhancing their NDC through the NDC. And under that, I was able to support in terms of 2 deliverables, in terms of climate finance mapping for Zambia, as well as developing an MRV of climate finance.
We are very, very appreciative of the support we are getting from the Commonwealth and from the Climate Finance Hub, including through the provision of the Climate Finance Advisor. We have seen ourselves moving forward. So far, we've been able to complete the CPEIR report, which is our first step towards doing more work in terms of monitoring finance in the country. And we believe that it's going to take us very far, as we really need to strengthen climate finance monitoring in the country in order to assist us to be able to mobilize more. There is a lot to be done. And we have also concluded the private sector engagement strategy. This is also something that we need, because we believe that if we are all working together, we can do more and have climate action become a reality in the country. A lot of the countries under the Commonwealth, including Eswatini, are suffering from climate change. And with every support we get, we will be able to move together. And I think it will be good to see Commonwealth countries leading in climate action in the world.
Some work that we did with the Commonwealth Secretariat, where we worked with the Ministry of Finance to do some socioeconomic modeling, looking at climate budget tagging and so on. And this for us is very important. It will put us in a good state to look as we move forward, and even for the Ministry of Finance to start to mainstream climate change into the budgeting process at the Ministry of Finance.
At a time when the NDC CAPE initiative is coming to an end, we are looking at it as a beginning, basically, to work on the NDCs of the member countries and to work on investment plans around the NDCs and see to it that supporting climate ambitions and climate actions of member countries moving forward. So the Climate Finance Access Hub is committed to support the member countries in this initiative, and we look forward to continued support in the days to come.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Just a sneak peek in terms of showcasing what the Commonwealth Climate Finance Access Hub is doing. And like the Secretary General had indicated, This is happening across a number of countries that are members of the Commonwealth. So Eswatini is taking the spotlight today because of the work that has been done, which we are proud to be launching and associate ourselves to. Can I now invite the next panel? I will invite Dr. Deepa to come to the podium. Dr. Sam Ogala, please come to the podium. And Ms. Kesiwe Kumalo. An applause, ladies and gentlemen, as we welcome our panelists. I know it's cold in Glasgow, but we can put a little bit of energy. To my panelists, thank you very much for accepting to be on this discussion, where we want to just delve a little bit more into the work that has been done in Eswatini to prepare the climate. Now, I was telling Sam that this is a long one. So with the deliverables that have been achieved under the Climate Action Enhancement Package, I'm introducing to you Dr. Deepa Planikatil, NDC Coordinator for Eswatini, Dr. Sam Ogala, the Commonwealth National Climate Finance Advisor in Eswatini, and also Ms. Kesiwe Kumalo, Climate Change Coordinator in the Ministry of Tourism and Environmental Affairs in Eswatini. So we'll start with Dr. Deepa for now, and just take us through what you have prepared for us on this topic. You're welcome.
Thank you, Carol. I will just take us through the process of the NDC updating in Eswatini. The Secretary General has eloquently summed up the impacts of climate change, and Eswatini is not excluded. We are also facing droughts and flash floods. We're facing changes in rainfall patterns, increase in annual temperature, as the director mentioned, increase in frequency of hot days. These are all affecting almost all sectors: agriculture, water, ecosystem biodiversity, infrastructure, and particularly the vulnerable groups are very badly impacted. So we are very grateful that we received support through NDC partnership, through Commonwealth, through UNDP and all these partners to enhance and update our NDC so that we can make it more ambitious and have more sectors which are affected by climate change included in this, compared to our first submission in 2015. So how we went about updating the NDC. We worked together with two ministries. So it's the Ministry of Tourism and Environmental Affairs and the Ministry of Economic Planning and Development that were spearheading the NDC revision process. And the focal points for the NDC is the Director of Meteorology, Dudu, and the Chief Economist from Ministry of Economic Planning and Development, Mr. Sifiso Mamba. We have strong political will. It was quite evident in the political launch, when the first launch of the revision process started. The Minister of Tourism and Environmental Affairs called on the nation to support the NDC revision process as well as the NDC implementation. And we wanted, it is a small country, Eswatini, just a population of about 1.2 million. And we wanted to make it a very inclusive process, leaving no one behind, truly taking a whole of government and whole of society approach. So we took a long time for extensive stakeholder engagement, and we had over 23 workshops and virtual meetings where we met with various sectors, including the technical sectors, as well as various groups, gender experts, youth, private sector, and even traditional leaders. So we made sure that everybody has a voice and put their ideas into this revised NDC. In addition to that, we had oversight by a high-level technical group. So majority directors, chief executive officers, chief environmental coordinators, chief economists, etc. They were all put together in a technical advisory group, and they regularly met to provide guidance to the NDC revision process. Every single report that came out of the NDC revision, there were various studies that were done as part of the revision process to ensure that the measures that we put in our NDC are really scientifically sound and backed up by data and evidence and stakeholder inputs. So this group provided us technical oversight. And in addition to that, we also had our 2 advisors, one advisor embedded within the Ministry of Economic Planning and Development, which is the economic advisor, Dr. Genevesi Ogiogio. And then we had our star, rock star Sam, Dr. Sam Ogalla, who was embedded within the Ministry of Tourism and Environmental Affairs, supported through Commonwealth. So these advisors were very, very instrumental guiding us and helping us throughout, and not just the revision process, but also in mobilizing resources, because we've already started mobilizing resources for our NDC. And we also wanted to make sure that this NDC revision process is not just a standalone, something that is done separately, but it is integrated and embedded within national processes. And we were lucky that some of the processes were happening. For example, the state of environment reporting was done just before most of the studies under the NDC revision process took place, which gave information from the state of environment report that could feed into our NDC revision process. Similarly, we are now revising the National Development Plan and the National Development Strategy. So this is very crucial for us that we align these with the NDC and ensure that these national development plans and strategies integrate climate change into these plans and strategies. So as part of NDC revision process from June 2020 until its submission in 12th October 2021, we had produced a number of reports. And today we are showcasing the 2 reports, the Climate Public Expenditure and Institutional Review and the Private Sector Engagement Strategy that was supported by Commonwealth. If I say a little bit about the CPEIR, it was truly owned by the country, because the consultants, the advisors from Commonwealth worked with government officials. So there was a task team that was set up with Ministry of Economic Planning, with Ministry of Environment, with Ministry of Finance, and various other relevant stakeholders. So they were working together with the advisors and consultants and experts to put together this document. So they were providing data and having very engaging discussions. So the document that we have now is truly owned by the country. And just yesterday, we had a meeting on the next step of using the CPEIR to develop climate budget codes. And so I wish the Secretary General was here. We could actually say that we have already started using this document. So this is very, very exciting for us. Just to give you a quick snapshot about the revision of the NDC, how it is enhanced from the first submission. As you can see, we have added more sectors. And I encourage you to download Eswatini's revised NDC from the NDC registry, where you can see the difference that how many more measures and contributions we have added in the revised, in the updated NDC. So I'm not taking too much of your time. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that informative presentation, which takes us through the whole process of how you updated the NDC, but also the linkages to other processes that are following. And I like the part where you bring in the initiating the process to develop the budget codes. I think they are very key, because also in MRV of support provided, the budget codes will be very key to apply. And I think there's more that we will be learning from Eswatini as member countries. Thank you very much for that presentation. I now go to the second panelist, and this is Dr. Sam Ogala, who has just earned himself a star title, to take us through the CPEIR process and how, just give us snapshots of what we expect to find when we take time to study the report. Dr. Sam.
Thank you. The Secretary General of the Commonwealth, Her Excellency, Right Honorable Patricia Scotland, QQ, who we have the privilege this morning to be with us at this again special event. Also, our Senior Director, Dr. Ruth, who also supported the Secretary General. Also, the Director, Eswatini Meteorological Services, Dudu. We're glad to have you in the house, and thanks again for all the support you've given to us. This day wouldn't have been a reality without your support. And the entire team from CPEIR, the Climate Finance Access Hub of the Commonwealth, also enjoyed a lot of support from them for us to make this happen and for Eswatini to have this document today. Colleagues on the high table, the panel, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, what I will do briefly in this presentation will be to run us through the processes that we undertook in coming up with the Eswatini Climate Public Expenditure and Institutional Review and the private sector engagement strategies. Our Secretary General has mentioned the importance of these two documents, and we've also heard from Eswatini how this document is now advancing the cause of the work that is now going on. So it's going to be a build up on what we already have done. How did the journey went, and what is in the report? The background is that the Climate Public Expenditure and Institutional Review, together with the private sector engagement strategy, was undertaken by the Commonwealth Secretariat through the Climate Finance Access Hub, which is CPEIR. And the basic context and background upon which this work was carried out was to help us implement the commitment we made to NDC partnership under the CPEIR program. Also, to support the implementation of an enhanced scope of Eswatini NDC. It's also to assist the country in strengthening their climate action and programs. Also, bringing the private sector people into play, because there is a huge gap in finance mobilizations for NDC implementation, especially from the first experience to date, and there is a journey ahead. And who are the people that will help us deliver on this? The private sector, we're told, has around $130 trillion that they can push into this work. So how do you engage them? How do we need to bring them on board so that we have effective implementation of this work in Eswatini? So the objective actually of the CPEIR, which is the Climate Public Expenditure and Institutional Review, is to review the opportunities and constraints for integrating climate change concerns into national budget allocations and expenditure processes. We will discover that most of the countries know about climate change. They have different budget code and budget lines, but most often the budget line for climate change is missing. So focus on other poverty alleviation and infrastructure and the rest, but climate change has been lagging behind. Also, another objective is to undertake the institutional review, the policy review. What are the existing policies in Eswatini that are helping the work and could be strengthened and will help us deliver on the Eswatini's NDC? It also deals with institutional reviews. What exists, what needs to be strengthened, and how can we do that? And also the level of climate expenditure. Because in the NDCs, there is a provision for conditional and non-conditional commitment. So how much is the government of Eswatini bringing to the table? How much are they spending? We need to know that so that we can account for that, that this is how much the government is putting forward, is committing. So one of the objectives of the CPEIR was to undertake that. And like our Secretary General has mentioned earlier on, this is a model that we want to replicate across the Commonwealth. So what we have done in Eswatini is going to provide a bedrock and a basis for which other countries, other member countries of the Commonwealth, will have to undertake their climate public and institutional review. Also, the private sector strategy, we have one objective, and that is to engage the private sector to support, implement, and also mobilize resources to implement the NDCs in Eswatini and other climate actions. The two processes, both the climate public expenditure and institutional review, as well as the private sector engagement strategy, like Dr. Deepa has mentioned, use different approaches to come about what we have in front of us today. The approach we took for the CPEIR was the compilation of relevant documentation derived from offices and different sources of the public institutions, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Economic Planning, the Ministry of Environment, have to collate all these compilations of what has been received, what has been spent, what is the budget of the government for 5 years, since 2020 to 2025, 2020 to 2015. Then there is semi-structured interviews and key informants that was undertaken. It also undertook research, which was largely based at the national level documents that we could access, and also at the local level. The approach we use for the private sector engagement strategy, and which, like I mentioned earlier, that whatsoever we do in Eswatini is going to be replicated in all the member countries in developing such a strategy. There is an extensive literature review that was carried out. There was also a review of international best practices, what is happening in other countries that we could borrow and scale up in Eswatini. There was also a stakeholder engagement, especially the Business Eswatini, which is the largest private sector grouping in the country, were consulted. There were engagements at different levels to see what the private sector themselves are doing, what states they are, what they need to do further, and how would they fully engage in the process. All this were not without challenges, and we have also learned some lessons along the line in developing these two important documents for the country. The COVID situation was cross-cutting. It slows down the time that we needed to finish up on this work, and a level of engagement would have undertaken. But despite all that, we're able to creatively and innovatively go ahead in the midst of COVID, like I told you, stakeholder engagement, interviews, using virtual and remote ways to get information that we need where possible. We also obtained some of the comprehensive climate financing data from 2015 to 2020, like I mentioned. This has helped us in coming up with this document. So what lessons are we learning in that? Now, for you to develop a document like the CPEIR, you need to have this information available and from relevant ministries. We also have the support of the CPEIR team. A team was set up, which was cross-cutting. Dr. Deepa listed some of the members that constitute the NDC revision team. The CPEIR process was also made up of a team that was set up by the government to help provide all the needed information and guidance for the process. So moving forward and replicating this in other member countries, we need to have a team on the ground cut across all the sectors and ministries, relevant ministries, departments, and agencies where information can be available and who have a stake in what you're doing. We also look at the yearly breakdown of public expenditure and also of the government. But one of the challenges we faced was that there is no climate strictly budget line that we can track to. So you have to sift through different budget allocations. Are this one climate compatible? Are they relevant to climate change interventions? So that was one of the challenges. So you have to dig deeper to get what is climate finance and what is development finance and what is actually going into mitigation and adaptation and so on and so forth. Same lessons and challenges, some of the we learned while developing also the private sector engagement strategies. Some of those I will, time will fail me to mention them, but I will list that. Again, one of the things we noticed, the challenge was that the private sector is not well informed about the situations, the climate situations in the country. And because they are not well informed, it becomes difficult for them to even engage at that level. So any countries that want to, among the member countries that want to develop a private sector strategy, we need to look at some of these issues and learn from what we have done in Eswatini. And we also learned that private sector are indispensable companion when you want to implement NDCs. So you have to involve them at every stage, right from the development of the strategy to its full implementations. These are some of the lessons learned. We also have key findings from the document. And as you can see in the document, the details are in the document I have before you. But because of time, I won't go in detail to tell you some of the findings, but I'll just highlight just few from there. In the CPEIR, some of the findings from our intervention, we discovered that over 95% of the total budget allocation has been in adaptation area. And this is quite understandable. The director made mention this morning of what the impact of climate change in Eswatini. And first and foremost, the people have to adapt before they even mitigate. The setting up of also the National Climate Change Committee in 2010 with wider representation also helped in climate public institutional review and also bring on board a strength when we're undertaking this process. The Ministry of Tourism and Environmental Affairs were also central for coordinating the role of climate change. And in any of member states that will want to undertake such, we will be good to identify a particular ministry that will spearhead this and bring other ministries on board. On the private sector angle, some of the findings include that we have just a fairly small and emerging private sector in Eswatini. So we don't have such big and huge private sector players in Eswatini. So we have the SMEs that are here doing what they can. And the largest group, like I mentioned earlier, is Business Eswatini. We have to engage them in the process. They operate in the agriculture sector, 26% of this group, and specializing in crop cultivation, followed by 11% of businesses, and then in manufacturing, mainly in maize, cotton, sugar, and granite. And then the main organization representing is the Business Eswatini. Although Eswatini has relatively small private sector, the National Development Strategy of Eswatini underlines the potential contributions of the sector and recognizes the power of transitioning the country to deliver on a broad-based and inclusive economic growth, bringing in the private sector to play. We also find out that there is a limited knowledge on climate change issues in Eswatini, and so among the private sector. The document that you have before you and that was launched has come up with key recommendations, and this will also guide our member countries across the Commonwealth on what to take forward, what to do when they want to undertake a climate public expenditure and institutional review, as well as developing a private sector engagement strategies. And there you go. These are the two documents that we have on the private sector engagement strategy and the climate public expenditure and institutional review for Eswatini. And among our member states of the Commonwealth, we are proud that Eswatini is ahead and has been able to bring this on board. The photo you see there was when our Secretary General was making the official presentation of the document you have before you this week to the Minister of Environment, Tourism, and Environmental Affairs of Eswatini. So we are glad, and we want to say that Eswatini is open. We welcome private sector engagement. All the private sector, please come on board. We're ready to welcome you. The door is open. Come and join us to implement the NDC in Eswatini. Once again, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam, for taking us through those two reports. Really, I think we would have loved that we drove more in detail to just appreciate what the report talks about. But since we are here together, I think ladies and gentlemen can find time to come through the pavilion and speak to Sam and just understand what the reports are talking about in a little bit more detail and see how we can adapt this to our respective country situations. Thank you very much for that. At this moment, I'm trying also to look at how much time we have so that we can just have an interaction if time provides. I would like now to invite Ms. Kesiwa Kumalo, the Climate Change Coordinator, Ministry of Tourism and Environmental Affairs in Eswatini, to just speak to us on financing needs for Eswatini NDC. As we know, we can have all these reports and an ambitious NDC, but without the means of implementation, I will not be able to contribute effectively to the global goal. So now I invite Ms. Kumalo to come and just make a presentation. Or you'd love to speak from there? Please.
Can I speak from
Yeah,
there?
sure.
Thank you very much, facilitator. I think Deepa has highlighted very well the process, and Sam has given us, I think, some of the products that have come up from the process. What I will just highlight before I get into the needs that we want is that what has helped us to work with the NDC partnership and the different partners under the partnership has actually made us, before we engage on the NDC revision process, to have a roadmap that gives us a holistic picture in terms of what we want to do and where we want to go. And this has actually ensured that within the NDC revision process, we also start thinking about the needs that will be important or will be fundamental for implementing the NDC, and also the process in terms of what is going to be important for us to review again the NDC, as we know that this is an iterative process. So based on what we have already done on the ground in terms of actually looking forward in terms of what we are going to need, I think it has really come out very strongly, as you can see, the NDC from Eswatini in terms of how ambitious it is, and also in terms of how we have enhanced and give clarity to the different activities under the different sectors that we have, that now we are looking at an economy-wide NDC. Therefore, it becomes very fundamental to have effective coordination mechanism on the ground. It becomes very important for us as a government and different sectors and different partners to work together. So that is why for us to be able to understand in terms of how we engage the private sector as the most important stakeholder to actually leverage domestic financing, we did this engagement strategy. And with this engagement strategy and the CPEIR, it gives us actually a very good baseline. Now we understand better the gaps. We now understand the opportunities that we need to take or to ride on in terms of ensuring that our NDC is implementable. Throughout the processes that we have done, I think it has come out very clear that as Eswatini, as small as it is, what we will need for financing, it actually goes to trillions. The estimates that have already been made are actually pointing to a range of between 950 million US dollars and 1.3 trillion US dollars. And that is a very important or a very huge amount of cost. But again, we look in terms of what are the differences, where do we prioritize, and how do we ensure that we are able to leverage this support? Because for us to be able to actually report back in terms of how we have done and track progress for the implementation of the NDC, it is fundamental for us to get those resources. So these outputs that we are talking about here today are actually has given us the opportunity to see where are the low-hanging fruits. As government through the CPEIR, already we are taking the next step in terms of initiating the process of inclusive budgeting, where we are also talking about climate budget coding for government to be able to understand the expenditure and also to improve, as already Sam has said, that when we were doing the CPEIR, it was very difficult for us to be able to see how activities, should they be a climate activity or a development activity. But right now, I think we are going to take the next step in terms of identifying and defining this process together with the Ministry of Economic Planning and the Ministry of Finance, and ensure that we are building systems within our budget process, and also we are able to actually catalyze at the highest level the decision makers, the policy makers, to ensure that they understand what are the needs in terms of financing within the fiscal, but also how do we bring on board external financing. And I think with the private sector, what is important for us now that we know the gaps or the lessons that Sam has just shared, what would be our next steps to ensure that we really build long-lasting partnership with the private sector to support or to continually support the NDC. And one important thing that also we have learned through the NDC revision process is that partnerships are very important and collaborations are very important, not only just with the private sector and government ministries, but across society. It becomes very fundamental, not only within the society, also within different levels of the society, within the youth, the gender group, and everyone involved has a role to support climate action in the country. And this is something that we have led, and we want to take it forward. Those strong relationships that we have built over time in terms of when we were revising the process, and move with those relationships in terms to the next steps as we implement our NDC. So we can no longer, or we cannot undermine the need for capacity building of those stakeholders that we want to work with. It will be very, very important. And we are already thinking through in terms of how we can ensure that through the different sectors that have already been prioritized within the NDC, we continue to engage, we continue to build their capacity for implementing the NDC. But also beyond that, we continue to engage and build their capacity in terms of monitoring and reporting in terms of the successes that we are seeing on the ground. And that will be very, very important. So we are, as a country, we believe that we can also learn a lot from the other Commonwealth countries, where in whichever stage that they are in, and we are also ready to share experiences from our country to ensure that together we are able to move and influence and also draw lessons for other countries across the globe to ensure that they are picking lessons that we are learning. And we will be happy next time to come and share success stories together in terms of South-South cooperation, and that will be fundamental. So the next step now is actually for us to continue to build capacity in terms of now moving from what we have as actions and prioritized action to concrete investment projects that are going to be implemented on the ground, and that are going to be the ones that we are going to be showcasing, or something that is going to make a difference. I think there are sectors that we are starting just now to engage on in the country when it comes to climate action, and there are also stakeholders that we have just started the conversation with. So it will be very important and fundamental that we build this relationship and support that we have already generated throughout the NDC process. But we are also looking forward to engage with other countries, to engage with international organizations, international partners, and even international civil society to ensure that we are building a very strong base for young people, for civil society, for women, and across the society, the different groups. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and really informative to see the the linkages of how now we take the work that has been building up to the ground to ensure that everything that has been in the background being prepared in documentations, in trainings, in workshops, materializes into actions on the ground. And this is where Ms. Kumalo has just touched on in terms of the resource requirement of how do we then operationalize all these things that have been happening in Eswatini, right from enhancing the ambition of the NDC, which has since been submitted, to preparing strategies that can help us to actualize and operationalize activities and actions of the NDC, and then looking at how do we then identify the resource needs on the ground. And within all that landscape, we've heard about how stakeholder engagement is important, particularly the private sector. And we understand that with that private sector, it is a challenge to take some of the actions forward. As you know, most of the NDC ambitions lean a lot on the mitigation part of the actions, and this becomes an important stakeholder to engage. We are also happy to hear about how inclusive the NDC revision was in terms of the spirit of leaving no one behind, taking into account the vulnerable groups or stakeholders at all levels in the country, and how this has now culminated into a document that we are proud to be associated with and submitted to the UNFCCC under the Paris Agreement. So ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very informative session, and we appreciate that you are able to come and sit through and follow this. And like we said, we are here at the pavilion for the rest of the period of the COP. Feel free to come through in case you joined us in the middle, to come and interact in detail with the panelists that are here and understand a little bit more of what has been the processes are taking place in Eswatini around the NDC revision, preparation of the various strategies, and also the finance needs around operationalization of the NDC. Thank you very much for your attention and wishing you a very pleasant day.